I tried not to freak out. I tried not to think about that tiny girl brutally savaging a man who had to weigh at least twice what she did. I really tried not to think about the middle school declaration of "I like you" that had preceded the beating and what it meant for me. I was entirely unsuccessful. I was a nervous wreck for the rest of the day, unable to finish my homework for another class, while I desperately tried to pretend that everything was normal. Only, it wasn't. And now some weird, trans-dimensional ghost thing had taken an interest in me. This would be so much easier to deal with if I knew what the hell it was, instead of just vaguely guessing at what it might be able to do. To try to distract myself, I separated my emotions from my rational thoughts by attempting to discern the stranger's nature and abilities from what info I had. I didn't have much, but I could at least get started. Shapeshifting. I put the asterisk down because I'm not sure if it's possessing people or literally taking their shape and pretending to be them. I picked shapeshifting over possession because that was probably more likely. It also gave me something physical I could hurt over the nightmare of trying to deal with something incorporeal and capable of controlling people. Telepathy. I was fairly confident on that score. Derek had read my mind in the psych ward, not just picking out surface memories, but reading clear into the dark parts of my mind I never wanted to visit again. Enhanced strength. This was troubling. I had no doubt that the stranger as Millie was responsible for killing Michael Fisher, either by beating him with her bare hands or with a club of some sort. I looked at Bruce, lounging on my bed and breathing easily. I realized that I had very little idea of what Bruce was capable of. He had taken care of things at home with relative ease, but he had still been injured during that exchange. I had no idea how the stranger related to the things at home in terms of strength and ability, but I assumed it was more powerful. I was working so hard and for so long that I didn't realize when the sun had set for the day, or that I was so tired I was on the edge of passing out. Really wish I could help you more. A voice from behind me spoke regretfully. I whirled around, raw panic overriding all rationality. I saw nothing other than Bruce, resting casually on my bed. He opened his eyes and slowly picked up his head, looking at me as if asking, "Did you need something?" Oh my God. I'm hearing voices now, I said, biting on the edge of the dry eraser marker. Fantastic. Just fatigue, the voice said. I'd know if restless spirits were around. I whipped around and saw only Bruce sitting and looking at me sadly. He perked up, lifted his head and ears in a questioning expression. McCain? The voice seemed to come from Bruce, but his mouth didn't move, and it didn't sound like what I thought a dog would sound like. To be fair, I was thinking of Scooby-Doo, but I wouldn't expect a dog to sound like a normal person. Strangely, or maybe not, Bruce's voice possessed a quality I can only describe as heroic. It had a youthful, if slightly jaded tone, and carried more confident swagger than I thought a voice could convey. "Bruce, is that you?" I asked. In the grand scheme of things, it was just one more weird thing happening to me, but a talking dog seemed incredibly cliché. He snorted in what I assumed was disbelief, before he stood up and examined me. He sniffed me a few times before shaking his head and turned around in a circle a few times before flopping down. I had no idea your mind was this cracked, Bruce said. If you can hear me when you're conscious, then that means the cracks will only get wider until your mind finally opens up permanently. Troubled, I asked, "What does that mean?" "Remember those cockroaches I killed a few years ago?" Bruce asked. "You mean the nightmare creatures that shattered Natalie's mind and nearly broke me as well?" I asked. "No, you'll have to refresh my memory, please." If I was just noticing this for the first time, then I was a lot less perceptive than I thought I was. But Bruce pulled his lips up in a disturbingly human smirk. Hold on to that attitude. A terminal smartass is more likely to survive than a wide-eyed slackjaw. Maybe to you, they were nightmares. To me, they were annoying pests. There are much worse things that walk the dark paths at night. Things that will soon be plainly audible to you. I'll only be able to hear them? Good. At least I'm not looking at them. Humans are primarily sight-based? Bruce asked, as if this was news to him. Yeah, I said. Did you think we were auditory creatures? You can miss something right in front of you if it wasn't shrieking at you. Bruce pointed out, you lose your wizard's almanac all the time. Then you have one of your pack mates torture it until you find it. Colorful way to describe how I recover my phone. Whatever. My mind is about to open up, and I'll see things like those nightmares. Much worse, Bruce added. Walking the streets at night? I finished. Fantastic. And I assume they know when they're being watched. Most of them, Bruce said. They're everywhere. There are 2 in this apartment right now. What? I nearly screamed. 2 more? Like the 2 that almost killed me all those years ago? Go get them now! Bruce stood up, stretched his back, yawned, and hopped off the bed. He trotted out of my door and turned right. A few seconds later, I heard a human yelp, a sound like coins falling out of a wooden chest, and some struggling. Just below my conscious threshold, present just enough for me to perceive it, was a quiet shrieking. "Tell your dog to stay out of my jewelry!" Megan yelled. Bruce trotted back in, clearing the door before looking back and shutting it with his back leg. His jaws were slightly agape, and behind them, I could see a wiggling mass, the color of gangrenous flesh. A single bloodshot eye on its back opened and looked at me. I recoiled. "Kill it!" Still holding it in his mouth, Bruce asked, "Why?" "It's harmless. This kind just likes being around shiny things. They lack the strength to do any real damage to humans, or anything with flesh for that matter. A perceptive house cat could kill this thing." Bruce lowered his jaws to the floor and let the gangrenous thing go. It shot towards the door, wiggling underneath, and disappeared. "It was frankly embarrassing back with Natalie," Bruce said, hopping up onto my bed. "These 2 pests should have known what they were dealing with. The fact that one of them managed to hurt me is insulting. Barely stronger than an imp, and it sprained my ankle." "Okay," I said, rubbing my head. "What about the stranger? It seemed to know you, called you Vince, and you met it yesterday in Millie." Everyone knows the Hallowing Storm, Bruce said. Well, anyone important. Who's Millie? The girl who scratched you yesterday? I said. The Hallowing Storm? Oh, that one, Bruce said. He started chewing on his paw, but before I could reprimand him, he went on. I have no idea what that was. Definitely something cosmic, but that means nothing in narrowing it down. Applies to a whole mess of entities, ranging from nightmare feeder clear-up to old one. I clutched my head to prevent it from exploding. Old ones? Asthoth? Yogoslav? Narthvip? Someone's informed, Bruce said, but that's the A-list. You'd be able to feel it if Yogoslav was reincarnated. The Guardians would be in an uproar if Narthvip showed up again. I'd rip his essence out and eat it, risks and all, before I let that monster turn this world into a staging ground. The stranger is nowhere near that level, Bruce went on, moving past his threat to eat a great old one if given the opportunity. But I've learned to develop a healthy respect for cosmic beings. The cunning ones can disable me if they pull some kind of conceptual trick. So, could the stranger do that? I asked whatever a conceptual trick was. It seems clever enough, Bruce said. I don't think it wants to hurt you. At least, not intentionally. I flipped my hands and shrugged, indicating him to continue. It doesn't want to hurt you for the sake of hurting you, Bruce said. But I did detect a distinctly hungry vibe coming from it at some point. Was that when you moved? Yeah, Bruce said. I wondered if that girl accepted a contract or if it's just a hijacking. There's a difference? No one breaks a contract without repercussions, Bruce said. Not even cosmic beings. If she has a contract, it probably specifies a period of time when it gets to be active. Afterwards, it leaves. That's if it's a wish granter. Like a genie? Bruce looked like he was going to respond, but instead he turned his nose up to the sky. He sniffed experimentally a few times before lowering his head and looking at me with what must have been an apologetic look for a dog. I smell it, he said. It's making a beeline here. Despite the numerous shocks I had gotten in the last few minutes, that revelation still struck like a sledgehammer to the chest. How does it... I began, before slouching. Telepathy. I could hear someone climbing the stairs, 2 or 3 at a time. I lived on the 4th floor. Panicking, I peered out my window, getting a good view of the door. Someone rounded the stairs and leaped clear up the last landing in one bound. Millie. Her brown hair was loose and down and waved around her as she made big movements. She was dressed almost the same from yesterday, jeans and a hoodie, but she was wearing more makeup this time. She walked right up to the door and knocked loudly 3 times. I was freaking out, but I calmly walked up to the door and opened it. Millie squealed and flung herself into my chest. She nuzzled into me before turning to look up, her gray eyes just slightly translucent. She hooked the door closed. Hey, she said, smiling widely. I missed you. Thank you for watching. I always appreciate the support you show me, and I'm forever grateful for it. Hope everyone had a wonderful day. All my social media information is in the description box below. All the story, music, and image information is below as well. And don't forget, I'll see you.